Receptionist humiliates Barron Trump, not knowing he owns the hotel. The camera focuses on the sleek, polished lobby, full of high-end guests with luxury luggage. The hustle and bustle of a top-tier hotel, filled with people from all walks of life, sets the tone. Barron Trump, looking like any other guest dressed casually, maybe in a hoodie or plain clothes, walks up to the receptionist, ready to check in. The receptionist, who is having a typical day at work, doesn't recognize him. With no hesitation, she acts dismissively, assuming Barron is just another random guest trying to take advantage. Receptionist: "Sir, if you're looking for a room, we require payment up front." Her tone is sharp, indifferent, and borderline rude. She treats him as though he's just another ordinary man in need of a room. At first, Barron stands still, almost in disbelief, as the receptionist doesn't even spare a glance at him. She's busy with the other guests, completely unaware of his identity. Does she know who she's talking to? The audience is in suspense. Why isn't he reacting? Is Barron just letting this slide, or will he take action? The receptionist, continuing her task, doesn't flinch. But the tension builds as we sense something bigger is at play here. Barron is no ordinary guest, but the receptionist has no idea. The camera zooms in on Barron's face, a mix of calm and silent frustration. He remains silent, but the weight of the moment is palpable. What happens when the man you're humiliating owns the very hotel you're working at? A quick shot of the receptionist continuing her routine, oblivious, as the audience begins to wonder, how will Barron handle this? The receptionist's name is Megan. She's young, confident, and has worked at this prestigious hotel for over a year. She knows her job inside and out, handling check-ins, managing reservations, and dealing with difficult guests. Megan is used to seeing all kinds of people. In her line of work, she's dealt with celebrities, CEOs, and world leaders, but she has a particular attitude. No one gets special treatment unless they prove it. She prides herself on being impartial and professional. "I don't care who you are. If you want a room, you follow the rules," she often tells herself. Her posture is straight, and her focus is sharp. This is her domain, and she runs it with authority. Barron Trump walks up to the desk with a calm, almost distant look on his face. He doesn't appear flashy or imposing. He's just a man in simple clothes. Megan doesn't recognize him, and he doesn't seem like anyone important to her. Without missing a beat, she asks, "Can I help you?" in a clipped tone, as if she's heard every request under the sun before. Barron says he's checking in and gives his name, but she doesn't react. She's more concerned with the queue of guests waiting behind him. He doesn't look like anyone special to her, so she doesn't bother to check his details with much care. "I'm sorry, sir, but we require payment up front for your stay. You'll need to pay for the room now, before we can proceed." Megan feels a slight irritation as Barron hesitates, probably not expecting this kind of treatment. She quickly assumes he's a person who's used to getting things his way, but she's not backing down. Typical. Another entitled guest who thinks they can walk in and expect to get special treatment. "Not here, buddy. I follow the rules, and if you don't like it, tough luck." She looks at him for a moment, studying his expression. He doesn't appear angry, but there's something in his eyes, maybe confusion or frustration. It's almost as if he's trying to decide whether to speak or just leave. But he says nothing, simply waiting for her to continue. Her assumption that he's just another average guest is cemented as she continues with the process, thinking nothing of it. In her mind, she's doing her job, efficient and by the book. "It's not my fault you don't want to pay up front. Rules are rules," she tells herself. As Barron stands there silently, Megan's impatience grows. Her eyes dart to the clock, and she wonders if he's going to drag this out. She's dealt with people who didn't want to pay or try to argue with her, but she's not the type to back down. She shifts slightly in her chair, continuing to type on her keyboard, ignoring the subtle tension in the air. There's a slight coldness to her words as she repeats the need for immediate payment. She begins to feel like she's teaching him a lesson. In her eyes, this is just a routine encounter with a difficult guest, and she's just doing her job. As Barron remains silent, Megan starts to feel a sense of pride. "See? I knew he was going to be one of those people who expect everything handed to them. But not here. I'm not going to be intimidated by anyone, especially not some guy in a hoodie." She continues typing, casually glancing up from time to time, but still not recognizing that Barron might be someone more important than she thinks. If he can't afford the room, maybe he should go somewhere else, she thinks. She doesn't feel any guilt about her tone or her refusal to accommodate him, even though he hasn't raised his voice or caused a scene. To her, he's just another guest. She doesn't know that in the back of her mind, there's something she's missed entirely. While Megan is busy continuing her routine, the camera shifts to Barron's face. There's a slight smirk, but it's subtle, almost as if he's amused by the situation. He doesn't show anger or frustration, just a cool, detached demeanor that contrasts sharply with Megan's increasing impatience. The audience starts to feel the tension. Why isn't Barron reacting? What is he thinking? Megan's voice breaks the silence once more. Sir, I'll need the payment now, or I'll have to ask you to leave. The music swells slightly as the camera focuses on Barron's eyes sharp, calculating. He doesn't say a word, and the receptionist is still oblivious to the fact that she's speaking to someone who holds far more power in that room than she could ever know. As Megan continues her business, Barron doesn't immediately react. He remains standing there, calm and composed, like a man who's seen it all before. His expression is neutral, almost indifferent, which contrasts sharply with the receptionist's growing impatience. His posture is relaxed, his hands lightly folded in front of him. He doesn't fidget or seem uncomfortable. It's almost as if he's waiting for something, perhaps a moment of clarity or a mistake on her part. He doesn't seem to be in a rush, even though the receptionist is treating him like a nuisance. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't challenge her or even ask why he's being treated this way. Instead, he remains silent, like a man who is fully aware of the situation but chooses to hold his cards close. This is a key moment. While Barron's outward demeanor is calm, there's a certain power in his silence. His lack of response makes the receptionist uneasy, but she's too caught up in her own assumptions to notice. The silence between them speaks volumes. He knows something she doesn't. Should I let her go on? Should I correct her now? Barron might be wondering, but instead of getting defensive or angry, he decides to watch how long it takes her to realize her mistake. He knows the importance of discretion. Sometimes, silence can be more effective than a loud confrontation. There's no anger on his face, just calm acceptance. He's not trying to prove a point to Megan, but he's silently evaluating her response, watching as she continues with the process, unaware of who he is. Barron has grown up with the understanding that his family's wealth and status give him a certain kind of power. The power to remain composed, to never let anyone know when you've been wronged, and to choose your moments carefully. This is one of those moments. He knows the receptionist likely faces many challenging guests every day, and perhaps this is just another routine interaction for her. But Barron is far from an ordinary guest. As the receptionist continues to be rigid and unyielding, Barron's lips almost twitch into a subtle smile, though it's barely noticeable. He's amused, but not in the way that someone might laugh off a minor inconvenience. There's a sense of quiet satisfaction in his calmness, as if he knows something is about to shift in this encounter. It's a small, fleeting expression that could easily go unnoticed by anyone not paying attention. The audience, however, sees it, and the tension builds. Why isn't Barron reacting the way most people would? Why is he just standing there? As Barron stands there, not replying to her repeated demands for payment, Megan grows more and more frustrated. Her patience is wearing thin, but there's a part of her that's beginning to wonder, why is he so quiet? She glances at him more frequently now, noticing his composed demeanor, which only serves to irritate her further. She's used to guests becoming defensive when she stands firm. So, why isn't he reacting? The longer Barron stands there in silence, the more uncertain she becomes about the situation. But rather than questioning her own behavior, she doubles down. Sir, I really can't help you unless you pay up front. Why? Barron remains silent. The camera slowly zooms in on Barron's face as he remains still, the tension palpable. The audience feels the slow build-up. They know something big is about to happen. What's he going to do? He could easily have challenged her by now. He could have snapped back with a sharp retort or demanded an apology. But instead, he stands there, undeterred, unmoved. This only heightens the mystery surrounding his true identity and his next move. He understands the psychology of power. He knows that the more he remains silent, the more unsettled she will become. And the longer this interaction continues, the more her discomfort grows.